Hello, and welcome to another edition of a Phillips Power Packed podcast.
Oh my gosh!
Got a little football game coming up here in a couple weeks, and here are a list of the teams who are trying to get into that small, non-important football game in a couple weeks. And strangely enough, I don't, and you probably don't see the Chicago Bears anywhere on that list. Well, here's a thought. The teams that are trying to get into the Super Bowl here in a couple weeks started practicing back in July. Maybe if the Bears had started practicing back in July, they would be on the list. Teams don't wait until a week or 2 weeks or a month before the Super Bowl to say, hey, maybe we should get together and throw the football around a couple times. What do you think? They started practicing months ago for the big game. Well, just like football teams start practicing months ago for the big game, we are going to start practicing how to grid the grids on the FCAT. But Mr. Phillips, that's not until April. Well, I'm not waiting to the last minute, and neither should you. So we're going to start a new epic podcast series on how to fill in the grids for the FCAT. So before we set sail on this new epic podcast series, just a reminder, +10 for the Bears. If you use a pen, you should use a pencil. And please make sure you take a minute to write your name at the top of the paper that Mr. Phillips gave you. Let's get ready to go. All right, guys, so the question for today is, how do you or how do I grid in negative numbers or integers, nice vocabulary, the Bears, on the FCAT? You should have a paper in front of you that has a plethora, several grids on it. I want you to pick any two grids on your paper that have a negative column. Please pick any two grids on your paper that have a negative column. And you should notice the negative column will have a black rectangle here, and it has a negative sign up at the top. Well, we're going to take a look at how you would grid in a negative answer or integer. So let's say, for example, that you got -9 for an answer on the FCAT. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to remember to write the negative sign in the box and color in the negative sign underneath. Please pick a grid that has a negative column on your paper and do that on your paper as I'm doing it here in the podcast. Please do it on your paper. Then you're going to take the number, in this case it happens to be 9, and you're going to put it in the box right next to the negative. Then you're going to come down here and you're going to bubble in the 9. So please do that on your paper. And you might want to make yourself a note that this is the correct way to grid a negative number on the FCAT. Now, you're going to pick a different box that has a negative column and copy this on your paper. This would be epic fail, or the incorrect way. Some kids in the past put their negative sign in the first box, good so far. They bubble in the negative sign, good so far. And then for some reason, they skip a box and they leave a space here. Guys, you cannot leave a space, an empty box, in between the negative sign and your number. That would be epic fail. So write the incorrect way on your paper also in one of the other boxes. And this is my reminder, do not leave an empty box between the negative sign and the number. This would also be epic fail. This would be epic fail, and this would be epic fail. Do not leave empty boxes in between the number and the negative sign. We don't want you to lose points on the FCAT. So you should have the correct way and the epic fail way on your paper. And for the correct way, this is my reminder, don't forget to bubble in the number, or in some case numbers, and put the number all the way to the left side, touching the negative sign. They should be touching each other, neighbors, right next door. And our epic fail, nice. Only moments away from epic fail. BRB. All right, guys, for this part of the podcast, you do not have to write these examples down, but just watch. You do not have to write these examples down, but just watch. But it doesn't give you an excuse to monkey around, so pay attention. What if the negative number or integer has more digits than the last example? Excellent question. It's too bad you didn't ask. It would have been plus 10 for the class. Well, let's pretend that we have an answer of negative 239. Just like the last time, write the negative sign in the box, bubble it in. Then I'm going to put a 2, 3, 9 and bubble in a 2, 3, 9. Notice that my numbers are neighbors with the negative sign. They're touching each other. This would be the correct way. Just like we did last time, this would be the correct way. Epic fail? Yeah, buddy, you know it. Check it out. If you put the negative sign and then leave a space and then put the 2, 3, 9, that's epic fail, and you're going to get it marked wrong on the FCAT, so don't make that mistake. Do not leave an empty box between the negative sign and the numbers. That is epic fail. My reminder, don't forget to bubble in the numbers and put the numbers all the way to the left side, touching the negative sign. The numbers need to be all the way to the left, touching the negative sign. No empty box. And our epic fail, when this happens, epic fail, you're doing it right. All right, last example and then we are done. How do I grid negative numbers with decimals? I would like you to write these examples down. So by the time you're done with this podcast, you should have 4 boxes filled in. 2 boxes with a negative 9, the correct way, and the epic fail way, and we're going to do 2 boxes with a negative decimal. So let's pretend that our answer is negative 9.75. Pick 2 boxes that have the negative column in it. You'll see that because it has the black rectangle. And this would be the correct way, so make yourself a note, this would be the correct way. Write your negative sign, bubble the negative sign. Put a 9 in its own box and the decimal in its own box. Bubble the 9, bubble the decimal. Then put a 7 and a 5, bubble the 7 and 5. This is the correct way to put a negative decimal in. Notice that my number is right up touching the negative sign. They are neighbors. Pick another box with the negative column on your paper and put your negative sign, bubble it in, put your 9.75 and bubble them in, but I want you to leave a space this time because this is epic fail. Guys, if I move my arrow, notice right here I have a space. You will get it marked wrong every single time if there's a space between the negative and the number. Don't do that. Just my reminder, don't forget to bubble in the number or numbers. Don't forget to bubble in the decimal and put the number all the way to the left. So right here, don't forget to bubble in that decimal if you're using a decimal on the FCAT. The decimal gets its own box. Alrighty, I think we have one more epic fail because ordinary failure just wasn't enough. Alrighty, so the question for today is, did this podcast give you a better understanding of how to grid negative numbers on the FCAT? That's what I thought. Alright guys, when you are finished with this podcast, I'm going to ask that you take the piece of paper that should have your name on it, that has all the grids, and I want you to put it in the folder on Mr. Phillips's chair, or put it in the folder on my desk if someone happens to be sitting on my desk and I would like you to return your iPod. Later.